August 28th, 2017. You're looking at the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Tropical Storm Harvey now has part of that center of circulation back in the Gulf, and it's going to continue in that direction. Notice, southeast is the movement at 5 miles an hour. Southeast takes it right back into the Gulf. We'll look at the different tracking maps. Potential tropical cyclone 10 has sustained winds at 35 miles an hour, and it's moving northeast at 9 miles an hour up the east coast. The storm that we saw coming off of Africa now has a 70% chance of cyclone formation within 5 days. It's moving west at 15 to 20 miles an hour. The heavy rain is possible in portions of the Cabo Verde Islands through Wednesday. We'll keep an eye on this storm. It possibly could do a recurve up into the Atlantic. That would be the best case scenario because the southeast is going to take a long time to recover from Harvey. Here are your visible satellite images as you go from infrared to the visible. Both storms you can see, the one off the Georgia coast is trying to form, moving northeast, and Harvey is moving back into the Gulf. If you watch these frames, you can see that center of circulation now coming back over. The largest band of storms right at this point is coming up into central Louisiana. Notice that. But Galveston, which is south of Houston, is still getting heavy wind and rain as these smaller bands come through. It's amazing. We'll look at that webcam. And if you remember the seawall cam, guys, right there coming into Galveston, since Thursday late, it's been intense, and it hasn't let up. Still high winds, still high waves. We'll look at it. But this band that's starting to build here, got you guys in Baton Rouge in that area, just be very careful with this. Lake Charles, all of you getting it in New Orleans, you're going to be in the under the gun for the next few days as the storm comes into the Gulf and comes back up into Louisiana. In Florida, you're getting winds coming off the Gulf, but the storm has moved now offshore as far as center of circulation. This right here is, I want to kind of emphasize what we're dealing with. Guys, if you're not paying attention to the news and the weather in the Houston area, it's unbelievable. The streets all look like rivers, and they've had to release a dam, and we're talking about maybe 8 or 9 more hours before the dam where they started the releasing north of Houston gets there. The street signs are starting to reappear on some of the streets, but guys, don't let that fool you. You've got a large amount of water coming from that dam release, and the rain is continuing. Also, remember I showed you the Atkinson and Barker Dam in the video yesterday that's normally these large dry parks. They're full. They're about to have to start releasing water from those two, and that's going to affect the bayous below the dams there south of I-10. This is a storm coming off of Africa. It's still very hot. You're coming into the Atlantic when it's being pushed by that air off the deserts of Africa. Here's a predicted path. Now, today is Monday, but look, by 8 p.m. tonight, the storm, or center circulation of the storm, is completely back over water. It stays over water for the next 3 days. Look at this, 8 a.m. Wednesday. If this path holds up, this is National Hurricane Center, then it will start to come back ashore. Where? Right in Galveston. Look at that, guys. Between there and the Louisiana border, anywhere within that yellow cone. That's not the size of the storm, that's the possible path. But 8 a.m. Thursday, it's in Louisiana. 4 days away. Still 40 miles per hour. But what they're not showing is the possible strengthening here while it's over the Gulf. You notice 8 a.m. Wednesday, it just went up by 4 miles an hour, but it's moving slow southeast, 5 miles an hour. Winds are again at 40 miles an hour. Barometric pressure 997, still low enough to kick into gear as soon as it gets back over this warm water. The models are, again, I call it climate chaos. They are strange, to say the least. They're showing this loop back into the Gulf, come back up, a couple of loops in north of Houston, dumping more rain. in the reservoirs and rivers there. The entire watershed in the Houston area is completely full. Then some track it going over Arkansas, some coming into Oklahoma and looping back down. But right now, the most intense rain on this enhanced view is in the Baton Rouge area and coming ashore south of there. But you've got a little dry air trying to mix with the system. But it's going to be too little too late, because we're now going back again over the Gulf of Mexico with a very low pressure. Here's the possible tracks of the potential Cyclone 10. Most of it runs up the east coast. Some bring the storm back ashore and go up. Again, the best scenario would be the TABM model. That is the darker purple line. It brings this thing ashore. It's going to dump some rain there, but it will get it out of the Atlantic and maybe help. This is an important model. It's showing all three storms. We're going to step through it. I mentioned this in the last video late yesterday, was that even though Tropical Storm Harvey, which you see now over Texas, notice your timestamp today, August 28th, bottom right, this is going to continue. It's moving very slow, but there is another system forming. May not become tropical, but over the Yucatan as we watch this. Here we go into the 29th. You got your storm coming off of Africa. You've got Harvey still setting basically in the same place tomorrow, except that it's going to be fully offshore. Now, here it's showing your rain bands. That's tomorrow over Louisiana, over the areas that are getting it now. I'm sure that before this is over with, we're going to see flooding in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lake Charles. So you guys be ready. Houston was semi-caught off guard. They're saying that they didn't have enough time, but they just weren't paying attention is all I can say. You had enough time, but that's a lot of people to evacuate. But right now, there's been over 2,000 rescues in the greater Houston area, many of them by Coast Guard helicopters. Now, look at September 1st. Think about this. The storm has come ashore, setting on the Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana border. But look in the Gulf. You see that? This is September 1st. Looks like a low pressure system. It may just be heavy rains coming in. Where's it coming into? It's going to pile through Galveston again. So what you're dealing with in South Texas, Harvey right now, Harvey coming back into the Gulf, Harvey re-emerging right over you, and then this coming in just as you needed a break from the moisture. Now, the model, this is September 2nd. Watch where the water in the Gulf is going. The worst possible place. Now, this will go out in this model, I think, to September 5th. It's September 4th here. Look at the moisture. Just now, the Galveston area, it shows getting a break, but not south of there and around Rockport, Corpus Christi, where this storm first came ashore. This is September 5th. That is a lot of water, moisture to deal with in a city, an area that's already underwater. And guys, I'm not forgetting about the rest of Texas. It's just that it seems that the focal point of the long bands have been Galveston Bay and the Houston area, but the entire area has been affected. Millions and millions of people. This storm, September 5th, could possibly be caught up in that front coming off the coast. Now, these are live images of Galveston. You remember this started late Thursday. This is Monday, and it's not over with possibly until the storm reemerges around the 1st, and then you've got more water coming in off the Gulf. I don't know if it's going to form into these high winds in this tropical storm that you're seeing still over the same area, but it's going to be wet. That's we'll watch it day by day. This is very important. Now, as the camera pans back to the right, you're going to see that the trees are still in high wind conditions. The piers are still experiencing high waves. I don't know how some of them have stood up. Some of them haven't. There's been roof damage. There's been tornadoes that have come through Houston, and that's not over with yet. But this particular intersection, and this is called the seawall cam, has not changed much since late Thursday. They can't get a break. It's the worst possible scenario. You had a Cat 4 impact, really tore up a lot of places, and then continuous rainfalls. Now, this is from the San Jacinto monument. That you see the river. Houston looks like a lake right now, but it's flowing. And then in the very center of this, between the trees, that's normally like the large pool like you see in front of the Washington Monument. But now it just looks like one big lake. And people are still trapped. Boats are coming in from everywhere. Again, Coast Guard helicopters are coming in. Just keep everyone there in your prayers, because the mayor's on there saying that don't go into your attics if you can't escape it, because the water's going to rise with the release of the dam north of Houston. Also, the head of the railroad, I think it was transportation, came on the news on the local Houston channel and said that the infrastructure cost was going to be possibly way up in the billions. But he said the energy sector alone, which, remember, Galveston, Houston is a oil and gas city. And so we have shipping comes in, you have refineries going. But he said just the cost to the economy from the energy sector will be several $billions. Not the rebuilding of the city, the rebuilding of the homes, the rebuilding of different things. Like right now, the main water station for Houston is underwater. They can't pump. The water supply and everything is going to be shut down. When that happens, you're going to have sewage backup, guys. You just be very careful. The lucky ones are the ones that evacuated when they were told to back Friday. The rest, and we have friends and families there, many are stuck in their homes. Can't go north or south. The roads are underwater. Some are without power, many. But we're watching it, guys. It's gonna be a slowly unfolding story. It's a heads up. Be safe.